So if you've wanted to add some sort of intrigue or interest to skill-based, almost combat in your 5th edition campaign, then I have a DM's Guild review for you. This time we're talking about Challenge Accepted from Crit Academy. Stay tuned. So first up, let us jump over here to the DM's Guild. This is a $4.95 module, so you do have to pay for it as such. As I always state, I will not be going through the entirety of the module because that discourages you from paying for it. You can see it is a best copper seller here on the DM's Guild, as 11 5-star ratings, so pretty good quality overall. The guys from Crit Academy have done things that I've reviewed in the past. I did Unearthed Tips and Tricks. That was them as well. So a collection of skill challenges to enhance your D&D game. And it says this book is a collection of 4th edition's best kept secret skill challenges. I've said it many times before, and I'll be upfront again. Never touched 4th edition, so I don't know. So I'm learning with you guys. D&D is a game that consists of multiple pillars of play: combat, roleplay, and exploration. The adaptation is designed to help enhance all those various challenges in a controlled and structured format that the DM can use at their table, called a skill challenge. A skill challenge is a great tool for giving some structure to some of the more narrative aspects of the game. This book includes 16 skill challenges, 5 fantastic terrain, fantastic hazards to challenge your heroes, 3 complex traps, keep your blade sharps and your spells prepared, heroes, or you may regret accepting this challenge. So here we are. I will say up front, Crit Academy did provide this to me for review purposes, but that being said, my opinions are my own. So we're going to basically read through kind of the upfront piece, just about how it works, and then I'll give you one skill challenge, and then we'll call it quits. And I think one I have is actually a really good one. I think you'll like it. So, a little intro. What is a skill challenge? It's, in my mind, I immediately think of skill tricks from 3.5, but they're nothing like that. It's essentially, and I feel like I've actually done this myself, and I feel like a lot of other DMs will probably have done this in the past in their own campaigns. They just didn't know they were doing it in this manner, which is you're trying to come up with an interesting mechanic to allow players to use their skills to solve a problem or some sort of social encounter. I've used it a lot, say, for arm wrestling, right? Like the players want to sit down and arm wrestle someone, and they're back and forth, and, it's going back and forth, and you need a series of so many successful skill challenges to, athletics checks, right, to succeed, and then you win or you fail or whatever the case may be. So it basically, for example, the party are attempting to persuade an archmage to send aid to defend a small village. Maybe they're trekking through a mountain to find a hidden cave during a blizzard. We'll get more into that. This says malleable skills. Basically, don't necessarily be held to what the skills here in this module say. They're saying if someone comes up with a reasonable way to use, like, say, sleight of hand when it should be athletics, if they come up with a good reason to explain why it should be sleight of hand, let them use it. And here's what it happens. It uses the challenge rating system that's contained in the DM's Guild, or the DM's Guide rather. It's on the Dungeon Master screen, and it has difficulty levels. Right, very easy is a challenge rating 5, or a DC of 5 rather. Nearly impossible is a DC of 30. So each skill challenge will have certain options based on what. So let's say a skill challenge has 3 different ways you could go about it written out here. One may be the easy way, one may be the hard way, and that'll base on that. And then they each have a complexity score, which is how many successes need to happen versus how many failures. So we'll get into that in a little bit further here again. And it'll say, for example, persuasion and deception are great tools for getting the support of a high noble to lend you his aid, while athletics in the same situation is less likely to be useful. In the skill challenge, these better suited skills are known as primary skills, which is what I'm talking about. Usually the DC will be easier compared to secondary skills where it will be more difficult. And here we have success and failure. In each challenge, a number of skill check successes, we saw in the complexity, is needed before a number of failures. Below is an overview for total success, and failure. Total success is when the characters complete the skill challenge without a single failure. Often this means avoiding any detrimental effects and allowing them to proceed without expending any resources. Success is when the characters complete the skill challenge by gaining the number of successes needed per the challenge complexity, but failed some along the way. While they overcome the challenge, there is often some sort of minor detrimental effect or loss of resources. And a failure is when the characters fail the challenge. Let's see, before gaining the requisite number of successes, this leads to an inconvenience to the characters, which could take the form of lost time, extra encounters, enemy reinforcements, getting lost, loss of hit dice, or even levels of exhaustion. Consider the success details and use them to explain the failure. If success of acrobatics describes the character vaulting over an obstacle, a failure may mean the character's foot got caught and they trip and fall. Prepare for failure. Failure should never stop the characters from proceeding, and this is something that I feel is done very well in other systems, other RPG systems, right? You fail, but it still progresses the story forward. Like, you succeed with a condition or something like that, and that sounds like what this is. Failure is inevitable. Use it as a tool to drive the story forward, but at a cost. Some skill challenges involve hazards that occur on initiative count 20, similar to a lair effect, because there are some that can be done in combat as well, and force each character involved in the skill challenge to make a saving throw to avoid their effects. Hazards include poisonous gas, freezing temperatures, arrow volleys, etc. If characters succeed, they avoid the effects entirely. Success or failure of these saving throws does not count toward the number of success or failures of the skill challenge. So if there is a hazard that happens at a specific time, like initiative count 20, succeeding that just means you're not affected by the effect. You still have to make your number of successes or failures to end this challenge. So this I thought was interesting. Why hit dice? So while hit points represent a character's resilience in battle, their hit dice represents their vitality and ability to recover from loss of hit points. Unlike taking damage, which directly affects how long a character can survive in combat, removing hit dice, and this is as a means of failure, removing hit dice affects the character's ability to recover from those combat encounters and begin to impact them much more as adventuring day continues. By removing hit dice, it prevents characters from recovering as well on a short rest. This makes it a wonderful resource to drain during skill challenges. Since characters can only recover half their hit dice during a long rest, it brings a more noticeable consequence when they get lost in the wilderness than tossing extra encounters at them. Alright, so here it has a little bit about running a skill challenge. I don't think I really need to describe it. Basically, you come up with what the challenge is going to be. You set it to your players, and you kind of explain, like, you need a certain number of successes, and kind of it'll come out in the narrative, I feel like. It's important to ensure that every character gets a chance to engage. In some challenges, the whole party is tested. And then here it has a section about running them in combat, because as it said, like the poison gas or the arrow volleys or something like that, that could be happening amidst a regular combat, and that just adds a whole nother level of complexity. I'd be careful with that, though, depending on your players, because if they're newer players, this may be just a lot to digest all at once. If your players are veteran players and you really want to stick it to them or make it really difficult, then I think this is a great way to boost the difficulty and make combat even more interesting. Okay, so let's jump ahead. The one that I wanted to showcase for you is called Emergency Surgery. I really like this one a lot. I also, even if you weren't doing it as a skill challenge, I just really like the way this scenario is worded. So you could even just take this scenario and incorporate it into your game regardless of the skill challenge. But I think it shines if you do both. So a member of the party or an important NPC has been struck by an assassin's poisoned arrow, which is magical in nature and is stuck inside the victim. That's the important part. It's magical. The arrow is dangerously close to vital organs and cannot be simply pulled out. So you got kind of an Iron Man vibe going, right? Can't pull it out because it could cause more harm than good. But here's the kicker. Anytime magic is used in the vicinity of the arrow, it reacts violently, harming the victim even more. So in a typical scenario, I feel like I've encountered this, and I'm sure you have as well. Someone gets stuck with an arrow, oh, we'll just pull it out and I'll cast Cure Wounds. But this is an like, you can't pull it out because you're going to risk killing them or harming them even more. And you can't just heal them magically because that's doing the same thing as well. It's hurting more than it's helping. So you need to figure out what you're going to do. And it says the group has to act quickly, and NPC or characters on the verge of death and normal magical means of curing are not possible or available. This is a complexity 1, so it requires 4 successes before 3 failures. Primary skills are investigation, medicine, and sleight of hand. So medicine is an easy DC. Character draws on their knowledge of first aid to keep the victim stable, buying them precious seconds. They observe the body's physical reaction to what happens, or what appears to be some sort of poison. The success And this is the thing, is successes will provide you benefits on something else. So success, the next nature check made during the skill challenge has advantage. Sleight of hand, which is a moderate DC. Again, this is primary. The character attempts to remove the arrow slowly, using your dexterity without causing too much pain, lest the victim flinch. Success, the next investigation or perception check made during the skill check has advantage. Investigation, also moderate. The character examines the arrow to determine its properties and how to remove it. Success, the next medicine check made during this skill challenge has advantage. We have perception, moderate. This one doesn't, as it's not a primary skill, it does not have a benefit on success. So the character attempts to find a way of removing the arrow without causing further harm. And then nature check, which is a hard DC. The character attempts to recall the substance the poison is derived from and think of an antidote. So a total success, meaning they succeed 4 times with no failures. The characters are able to identify the poison that is affecting the victim and quickly administer aid and gather a cure. A success, but with some failures. The characters are able to identify the poison that is affecting the victim and are able to administer aid or gather a cure. Unfortunately, slow actions of the party leave the victim disfigured for life. So that's pretty rough. And then failure. So this is failing 3 times before succeeding 4 times. The characters do their best to administer aid and seek out a cure for the poison, but alas, they are either too slow or misidentified the poison and applied the wrong cure. In either case, the victim dies. Now, I'd say you got to be careful here because you didn't let magical healing work because it was going to cause them more wounds. I'd also say it possibly prevents easy resurrection because, like, a very cynical party could be like, we'll just let them die, we'll pull the arrow out after they're dead, and then we'll bring them back to life. I mean, I guess you could do that. I feel like it loses some of the gravity if you just kill them, we'll get them back, it's fine. So think about that if you're going to run this specific scenario. But what I think is even, again, more devastating is they get the arrow out and they get the cure, but they find out it's the wrong cure. So, maybe, and this is where if you want to really stick it to them and, really just get into their heads, you got the arrow out and they may have survived on their own, but you provided the wrong antidote and it actually exacerbated the problem and made it worse, and that's the reason they died. Not that it was the wrong antidote. This has the opposite effect, and when this particular antidote is applied, it makes things even worse. So now they think, well, we could have saved them. They might have been able to survive, but we're the ones who killed them outright with our false diagnosis. I don't know. Again, there are a bunch of other skill checks in here. There are also traps and terrain options to make things interesting for your party. But I just thought that was a really good example of a skill check and a unique scenario I hadn't really ever thought of before. The idea of the poison arrow from the assassin that doesn't allow magic to work really stuck with me, and I wanted to make sure I shared that one with you guys. So let me know what you guys think of this challenge accepted module from Crit Academy. There's a link in the description to the DMs Guild if you want to pick that up. It's also an affiliate link to the DMs Guild, so if you click that link and decide to pick one up for yourself, a small portion of it comes back to Nerd Immersion, so that's always cool as well. Again, if you're new to the channel, I do a lot of these reviews and top 10s and commentary on Dungeons & Dragons, so if you like that, feel free to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel so you can hang out and see more of this stuff when it comes out in the future. I also stream every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday evening on Twitch. It's something Dungeons & Dragons or RPG related, and every other Sunday. So if you want to see that happening more in a live aspect in the gameplay side of things, be sure to check the link below for the Twitch channel as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll be back with more DMs Guild review content soon.